stop right there. If you think you're too late to Bitcoin because it hit $100,000, you're about to have your mind absolutely blown. What I'm about to show you will completely change how you see your position in this revolution. Even if you only own 0.01 Bitcoin right now, you're not just early. You're practically 1999 internet early, and I'm going to prove it with data that will shock you. Let me paint you a picture that's going to change everything. Back in 1999, Amazon was just some online bookstore run by a bald guy who was hemorrhaging money. Google didn't even exist. The iPhone was still 8 years away. Only about 4% of the world had ever been online, and the smart money thought the internet was just a fad that would disappear. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly where we are with Bitcoin right now. We just crossed that same 4% global adoption line, and everyone thinks they've missed the boat. But here's the reality check that's going to blow your mind. Bitcoin makes up just 0.2% of global wealth today. We're talking about a $2 trillion asset in a $1,000 trillion total asset universe. Let me put this in perspective. Gold is 10 times bigger than Bitcoin. Bonds are 150 times bigger. Real estate is 185 times bigger. You're literally standing at the base of what could become the world's greatest financial skyscraper, and construction hasn't even started yet. Depending on how much Bitcoin you own, you might already own a penthouse suite before the elevator even gets installed. This isn't hype. This is historical context that will show you exactly how rare your Bitcoin stack really is, and why you're still incredibly early to the only money that isn't someone else's liability. If you're holding Bitcoin right now, you're not late at all. You're still in the dial-up internet days, getting your internet from AOL disks in the mail. Remember those? Owning Bitcoin in 2025 is like using the internet in 1999, when most people thought it was just for nerds and would never change the world. Here's something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. If you hold just 0.01 Bitcoin, that's 1 million Satoshis, you're likely already rarer than a fiat millionaire. Let that sink in for a second. There are 58 million fiat millionaires in the world right now. If every single one of those millionaires got an equal share of Bitcoin's total supply, the maximum any of them could own would be about 0.36 Bitcoin. So here's your new goal. Instead of obsessing over owning one full Bitcoin, aim for 0.36 Bitcoin, and you'll know you have more than most fiat millionaires could ever possibly have. That's the power of true scarcity in action. But let's go even deeper into this rabbit hole. Owning Bitcoin in 2025 is like buying Amazon stock in 1999 with a paper check. Most people didn't think the internet would change the world until it already had, and nobody could have predicted what it actually became. That's exactly where we are with Bitcoin right now. The biggest difference? Bitcoin isn't a company that can fail or get disrupted. It's a parallel financial system. When the internet was scaling, they had to build entirely new physical infrastructure: servers, fiber optics, data centers, global communication rails. Bitcoin doesn't need any of that because the internet infrastructure already exists. It's pure software, weightless, running 24/7 globally, and the friction to scale is minimal. Here's another mind-bending fact. Adoption curves are compressing across every major technology. The internet took 25 years to go from 4% to 68% global adoption. If Bitcoin follows even a similar trajectory, you're not just early. You're at the beginning of a 10 to 20-year wave of exponential monetization. And unlike the internet, Bitcoin isn't just a communication tool. It's a store of value with a sledgehammer coming to shatter the broken fiat system. The fact that Bitcoin's market cap represents just 2% of total global assets means we're still dealing with a rounding error. This is what it looks like before the floodgates even open. 2025 has been the beginning of institutional adoption, but the real capital hasn't moved in yet. Most people are still on the sidelines calling it a scam and waiting for more certainty. By the time they get that certainty, the easy money will be gone. Let's break down exactly where you stand in this revolution. If you hold just 0.01 Bitcoin, 1 million sats, you're already ahead of 99.9% of the planet. Think about that. Would you ignore an investment that put you in the top 0.04% of global participants? Of course not. That would be insane. But that's exactly what holding even a tiny sliver of Bitcoin does for you today. It's easy to feel small when you're surrounded by loud whales on social media, but in global terms, even the smallest Bitcoin stack makes you rarer than the top 1% in almost any traditional wealth bracket. Here's something that will really cook your brain. Remember, the internet is a set of protocols created to transfer information digitally across interconnected computers. But in 1999, there was no way to directly invest in the internet itself. The economic value went to companies built on top of that protocol layer. But imagine if you could have bought shares of the internet protocol itself, a token representing a fixed percentage of all the wealth that would eventually be built on top of the internet. That's exactly what Bitcoin is. It's a protocol built to transfer value digitally across interconnected computers, and it comes with its own token representing a fixed share of that network. So we're literally sitting on the opportunity to buy shares of the internet before 99.9% of the world gets in. Let me break this down by tiers to show you just how early you really are. If you own 0.01 Bitcoin, you're holding the equivalent of a premium domain name in the 1990s. That's like owning books.com or cars.com when nobody else saw the value. It's valuable real estate on an entirely new protocol that most people don't understand yet. If you own 0.1 Bitcoin, you're almost certainly in the top 10%, maybe even top 8% of all Bitcoin holders globally. That's equivalent to having early-stage equity in a protocol that hasn't even hit mainstream adoption yet. The cost today is about $10,000, but the positioning is absolutely priceless. Now, if you own one full Bitcoin, the legendary whole coiner milestone, you're an extremely rare company. Just over 800,000 wallets hold at least one full Bitcoin, but wallet-level data always overstates the actual numbers. The best estimates suggest that individual holder numbers are 3 to 4 times lower than wallet statistics, especially for larger balances. Here's where it gets really crazy. We might have already passed peak whole coiner. The number of addresses holding one Bitcoin or more is actually shrinking over time as Bitcoin gets chopped up and distributed more widely. Whole coiners aren't just early, they're becoming extinct. If you have 10 or more Bitcoin, you're in the top 0.28% of all Bitcoin wallets. You're statistically rarer than most private equity partners in Silicon Valley. And this isn't paper wealth in some company. This is self-custody, final settlement, 24/7 liquid, trustless, permissionless digital value. Let me give you some perspective on just how empty this neighborhood really is. If you hold 0.1 Bitcoin or more, you're one of about 3 million people worldwide. That's roughly the population of Dubai, which is only the world's 167th largest city. If you hold 1 Bitcoin or more, you're in a global group that could fit entirely inside Jacksonville, Florida. If you own 1 full Bitcoin, you could fit every whole coiner in the entire world inside Toledo, Ohio. That's 0.003% of humanity, less than half the number of people who visit Disney World in a single week. The idea of owning 1 full Bitcoin is slipping out of reach for most people. It's becoming the digital version of owning a Manhattan brownstone. Once upon a time, it might have been considered achievable for regular people. Now it's basically becoming a fairy tale. If you're holding even a small amount of Bitcoin right now, you're not just early, you're moving in before the sidewalks are even paved. This is a rapidly closing window where average people can still claim meaningful amounts of Bitcoin. The window isn't closing because Bitcoin is changing, but because the rest of the world is finally waking up. By the time the masses show up to this digital city, you want to already own a whole city block. So why does all this matter? Most people spend their entire lives playing a wealth game they never agreed to participate in. They don't vote for the rules. They don't choose the system. The game is work hard, save in a currency that gets weaker every year, hope the stock market doesn't crash, buy assets late, pay taxes early, rinse and repeat until you die. Bitcoin breaks that rigged loop completely. This isn't about promising you instant riches. It's about giving you the ability to capture and preserve the value of your time and energy. There's no CEO who can tank the company. There's no government that can print more to dilute your holdings. There's no insider class getting special deals. It's just code, mathematics, and scarcity. Right now, Bitcoin still only represents 2% of global wealth. $2 trillion out of a $1,000 trillion asset universe. The average family has exposure to stocks, bonds, real estate, and cash, but not Bitcoin. Not yet. And that situation won't last forever. Every time a new wave of adoption arrives, whether it's a bank collapse, a currency crisis, or another country embracing Bitcoin, the window narrows. The easy money gets harder to make, and the obvious opportunity becomes less obvious. So wherever you are right now in your Bitcoin journey, understand this. If you're holding 0.01 Bitcoin, you are absolutely not late. You're sitting on the launch pad. If you're holding 0.1 Bitcoin, you're still front-running major institutions. If you've made it to 1 Bitcoin or beyond, you've already exited the traditional financial matrix, whether you realize it or not. This isn't about price predictions or getting rich quick schemes. This is about positioning yourself in an open-source monetary network before the real institutional capital arrives. The system Bitcoin is replacing is fundamentally rigged against regular people. The system Bitcoin is building is completely permissionless. Your job is simple. Step off the default path that everyone else is following and decide how far down this rabbit hole you want to go. The opportunity is still here, but it won't be here forever. The real capital is starting to arrive from institutions, governments, and corporations that are finally understanding what Bitcoin actually represents. If you've ever looked at your Bitcoin stack and wondered if it really matters in the grand scheme of things, now you have your answer. You have mathematical proof that you saw something revolutionary before 99% of the world figured it out. The wildest part? The opportunity is still here, but the window is closing. Every day more institutions wake up. Every day more countries create Bitcoin strategic reserves. Every day more regular people realize they need to own some Bitcoin, the more rare your current position becomes. So if you ever doubt whether you're early enough, remember this. You're positioned at the base of the greatest monetary revolution in human history, and most people haven't even noticed the construction has started. Don't forget just how early you really are. Stay focused, keep stacking, and remember, Bitcoin is inevitable. This is not financial advice. Always do your own research and never invest more than you can afford to lose. Cryptocurrency investments are highly volatile and risky.